Alright, Crit Console, it is Crits and Tales again, and it is for you to decide who will be in the run in today's 5 awesome horror stories. And the first one will be called DM puts a riddle only his girlfriend can solve. What are your thoughts about riddles in D&D? I haven't used any of them still. I guess I'm probably not all that riddle fan. Anyway, the party was deep into a dungeon. Not a side quest, not some random cave, a dungeon critical to main storyline. We'd been through hell in that place. Tough enemies, brutal traps, everyone burning through spell slots and hit points like candy. It sounds like fun. Classic dungeon crawl. High stakes, low rations. Eventually we came to a heavy stone door. No handle, no keyhole, just cold, unmoving stone. We started with the usual routine: strength checks, detect magic, arcana rolls. We got a hit, the door was spellbound, locked by a riddle. Who could have thought? Fair enough. We spread out looking for clues. Nothing. No carvings, no inscriptions, no ominous poem on a skeleton clutching a scroll. Then something strange happened. At the moment our druid stepped closer. And I mean just her. The door shimmered and a voice echoed out. What did I drink on our first date? And there was a pause. You could practically hear all of our eyebrows raising in unison. The druid facepalmed, then chuckled. Of course, whiskey. Click, the door slid open. At first we thought it was a joke. A weird little Easter egg between the DM and his girlfriend, the druid. I mean, it's cheesy, sure, but whatever. We've all thrown in a personal reference or two. But then we stepped into the next room. And there, on a pedestal, surrounded by magical words and plot-heavy foreshadowing, was the artifact. The actual one we needed to stop the big bad later in the campaign. The whole reason we were in this dungeon in the first place. That's when it hit us. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't a Valentine's Day one-shot. That riddle, that personal, fourth wall breaking riddle, it was canon. We all kind of laughed it off, because what else could we do? But man, the immersion took a critical hit that day. And the worst part, that whiskey line. According to her, that was what the DM orders when he is with someone he really likes. Apparently, it was his subtle way of saying he was into her on their first date. Ping, 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 ping. So yeah, the door to the final artifact opened because the DM wanted to flirt with his girlfriend in-game. Still not sure whether to laugh, cry, or install a romance filter on our campaign notes. I would definitely install any romance references in campaign notes. I'm pretty much for those in-game romantic things, like seducing characters to get some information or anything else, or just plain seducing. But out of game it is such a meta. Nah. It is unfair to other players, it is meta and breaking the fourth wall whatsoever. Two dimensions collide, cross with each other, and it is not good for immersion. But tell me what do you think about that? If you liked this story, you can leave a like under this video. But hold on till you hear the next one. It's gonna be even better. Paladin goes off on a druid again for casting Firewall to kill gnolls. Online D&D game. I'm playing a wildfire druid. Fire, healing, ashes to allies. She's from a small forest city, raised in a monastery of the local nature goddess. Think a forest priestess, guardian of the cycle of life. The paladin every session. Why aren't you wearing armor over wild shaping? You're a druid, not a wizard. Stop casting so many spells! Your character should hate libraries. Books are made from trees. Why do you have a house in the city? You should live in the woods. Okay, boomer. Today, we are surrounded by gnolls. Our backs are to a ravine. I wait, and then I upcast Firewall. A perfect arc around the party, slicing right through the gnolls horde. Absolute carnage. And the ones that didn't burn immediately ran, only to get picked off by our ranger with arrows and scorching rays. It was a chief's keys druid shit. Meanwhile, the paladin, he went down 3 times. Why? Because he broke Sanctuary before the cleric could heal him. Twice we picked him up. 3rd time we let nature take its course. And then he gets mad at me. Firewall is a defensive spell. It says wall in the name. You should have healed me so I could fight. I'm the paladin. So the story isn't about a druid, it is about a paladin again. What's wrong with the paladins in this game? And then he hits me with this. Druids are for area control, not killing. And I finally snap. Dude, if they are so cooked that cavemen are showing up with napkins asking for medium rare, the area is controlled, you goddamn tool. He blocked me on Discord. And then tried to get the DM to kick me for using the F word and calling him a tool. Right as I finish typing this, DM says, Paladin has quit the game. Alright? What can I say? I would not tell any player how to play the game. If he fails by his own. Not by my advice. I wouldn't take responsibility for his demise. If you can't handle healing yourself by yourself, then it's up to you. Don't put the blame on others. The third story. My short story caused the player to leave the game. Alright. All the stories I gathered today seem to complement each other. Back during the pandemic, one of my friends came up with a really cool idea for a Mutants and Masterminds campaign. He chose that system because it's insanely flexible, no rigid classes, easy character building, and you could pretty much create anything you could imagine. Plus, we were all stuck using Roll20, and he wanted something smooth to run online. All we really needed was a character sheet and token. His pitch was simple, but really clever. Low-powered supers, each from a different universe. A full-on genre mashup. But instead of just handing out character sheets and stat blocks, he gave us a twist. We had to write a short story about our character. Now, the rules were pretty straightforward. Pick a genre, keep the character low-powered, and the story at a specific arrival point into the multiverse, and keep it under 8 pages. This is a goddamn long story. After that, he read the story and helped us build our character based on what we wrote. He explained it like this. I just don't want one guy showing up as a demigod while everyone else is a swinging a baseball bat. I really like low-powered adventures, or low-level adventures, well, when heroes are not even close to full power, when they can be beaten up by a bunch of necro rats, when danger is lurking from every corner. Yeah, I don't like the epic phase of D&D so far. Maybe I haven't played, but from what I've seen, I don't really like it. You know, the god fights, not my thing. Honestly, we were all hyped. Having a character with a backstory was one thing, but writing a full short story, that was a new level of investment. Plus, he planned to run individual session zeros for each of us, heavily based on what we wrote. Even though I had a lot of experience with the mutants and the masterminds, I stuck with the short story idea, mainly because it sounded like a fun challenge. I would use ChatGPT for inspiration. After that, I make a story completely different from what I gathered from ChatGPT, but still it was inspired and started by it. You know, not to get stuck with an empty first page. I ended up writing 3 stories. What a commitment! A sword and sorcery tale, a space opera adventure, a greedy post-apocalyptic survival story. I figured he'd go for the sword and sorcery one. Most of the group was leaning sci-fi, so fantasy would add some contrast. But no, he loved the post-apocalyptic one. I also thought about the post-apocalyptic one. I would also choose this one. This guy feels real, he said. A survivor first, a hero second. Plus, the car being a part of him, not just equipment. That's brilliant. So, my character ended up being this grimy, no-nonsense wasteland survivor. A beat-up police cruiser patched together with a scrap and jury-rigged weapons. I didn't understand a word. A kind of a Mad Max meets Twisted Metal meets Dick Tracy vibe. Okay, the Dick Tracy also there in this cocktail. Mad Max can definitely meet Twisted Metal. I don't know much about the Dick Tracy though. It is like some kind of detective. After we finished our stories and did our session zeros, the GM told us we could post our stories in the group chat if we wanted. So I did. And that's when Paige entered the picture. Paige was an old acquaintance from college. We'd been in the same fiction classes, and even back then he was that guy. Always gatekeeping what counted as real sci-fi or fantasy. Always acting like a walking encyclopedia. But never actually fun to talk to. We clashed a lot. Years later, I bumped into him at a local game store. Thought maybe he'd mellowed out. Spoiler, he hadn't. Paige was the only person who hated my story. And not just a casual, meh. Either he flipped out. Post-apocalyptic road warrior types aren't viable characters, he ranted. You're running everyone's immersion. This isn't Twisted Metal. It's a serious game. Mind you, my character was probably the least powerful build out of everyone. I wasn't trying to hog the spotlight, I wasn't even trying to be flashy, but the page zeroed in on the fact that my car had a mounted gun and some basic armor. Nothing crazy, just survival gear. And decided that meant I wasn't taking the game seriously. He even sneered. Bruh, even the fact you're inspired by Twisted Metal says it all. That's not a skill-based game, it's a joke. But maybe Armored Car is a little bit OP. What do you guys think? The GM stepped in fast. Dude, we haven't even played a session yet. Everyone's story ends the same way. They are all in the same world now. It will be fine. Page wasn't having it. He insisted I was going to break immersion and claimed that his years of RPG experience meant he knew better than even the GM. I even offered to nerf my character, tone it down, whatever it took to make things smooth. Didn't matter. Page was already done. He gave an ultimatum. Either he changes the character or I'm out. So he left. That was the summer of 2020. We just finished that campaign about a week ago, and honestly, it was amazing. Good ending for a good story. Again, I don't understand why other players sometimes feel a need to intervene with the fellow players, which is basically a job for GM. If the game master allows it, it is totally fine. You do not argue with a demigod. Alright, the next story, the fourth one. I made a veteran Ragequit. Wait a minute. Is it some arcane magic? The previous one was about him making a veteran Ragequit. I definitely think that the D&D is intervening in our life, in our world. And I can clearly see it sometimes in dice rolls. Somewhere out there is possibility of some kind of portal. Let's dive into it. This isn't the worst D&D horror story out there, not by a long shot, but it definitely stuck with me. So, some background. A good friend of mine introduced me to D&D a few years ago. I became a regular at his table, and honestly, I still play in his campaigns today. He's the one who really inspired me to try running my own game as a DM. I picked up one of those D&D starter kits, scribbled some extra notes in a big clunky notebook, tweaked a few quests here and there, made it a little more personal. I was pumped. I got 4 players together, 3 friends and the veteran of this story. Let's call him T. Mr. T. Our first session was absolute chaos, but in the best way. And they walked into a goblin cave and BAM! This huge goblin brute jumps out from behind some crates and completely wipes the party. At first I panicked. Oh crap, I killed everyone in the first session! The best way possible. What are you so afraid of? Never happened to me, but I am still learning. I apologized profusely, asked if they wanted a do-over next time, but they were all laughing their heads off. No, it's fine, they told me. We had fun, let's keep going, you figure out what happens next. So for session 2, I decided they hadn't died after all. Instead, the goblins had tied them up outside the cave, looted their gear, and left them there like garbage. They managed to escape and stumbled their way back to the caravan they were supposed to be escorting. And that's when things started going downhill. He looked at me and asked, "Is there any loot in the caravan?" I checked my notes and shook my head. Nope, just pickaxes, some crates of booze, that's about it. He frowned. Any weapons? Armor? Again I said, nope. Just supplies. He just stared at me for a second, then without a word he stood up, said, "Yeah, fuck this shit," and walked out. Right at the start of the session. Gone. Now for context. The player's gear was literally in the first chamber of the goblin cave. They could have easily snuck back in, grabbed their stuff, no problemo. My other friends didn't care. They were still having a blast, laughing, offering me little tips here and there, telling me they were really enjoying it. Later, my DM friend, the one who got me into D&D in the first place, found out what happened and absolutely unloaded on T in private messages. He was furious. But honestly, even though everyone else was having fun, that moment with the T just killed the part of my motivation. I started second-guessing myself. I thought I was adding a little extra challenge, something cool for a group of experienced players. I even fudged the rolls in their favor if I thought they were struggling too much. I threw in extra monsters when they wanted more action. I built side quests so the game wouldn't feel too linear. I really tried, and yet I still think about that session sometimes. It's not the worst story in the world, but for me, it mattered. This is how one word, one sentence, one moment can divide a life to before and after. Hopefully the OP of this story will finally get over it, find out that there are much more things to worry about in a D&D, about how to wipe up a group properly without leaving them alive. But as for now, it is not all that bad, as I can imagine making up some side quests to keep players entertained. It's pretty cool. I do it myself. Sometimes there's those side quests that just come up randomly, and some random encounter can lead to another side quest that can derail the campaign totally. I'm talking about, from my experience, very humble and very small. The last story for today, or tonight. Had a player issue an ultimatum to me, the DM, during a session. Well, the title says it to me, but let's just take a peek. Last Friday, I ran a session where the players were exploring a cursed, abandoned city. The week before, they'd just made it inside, only to get lost and the building started shifting around them. They spotted a glowing golden light inside an inn, and a face peeking out from one of the windows. The inn was a divine safe zone, protected by a blessing tied to a paladin inside. That face in the window, a new player's character, just joining the group. We picked up this week with everyone chatting in character, making plans and introducing themselves to the newcomer, some light roleplay, a bit of prep, and eventually they settled in for the night. Then the party's employer, a mysterious witch, visited the new character in a dream. That scene gave us a cool intro to her backstory and set up the reason she was joining the quest for the MacGuffin. Throughout all of this, one player was just impatient, kept interrupting, kept trying to skip ahead, stuff like, yeah, we all go to sleep and wake up rested. Now let's explore! Okay, great, we carry out the plan and get to where we were going. What's next? That's the reason why I would straight up ask player not to come to my games anymore, even if it is a good player, even if it is a good human being. Anyway, let me have this 1 hour conversation with a random NPC without even a name. The rest of the group was still mid-conversation, role-playing with the new character, talking to NPCs, figuring things out, but this guy wanted to speedrun the whole thing. 2 other players actually DM'd me, asking what was up with him. Anyway, the Paladin, not the problem player, a different one. This time, takes down the barrier protecting the inn. The party steps into the city again, gets lost pretty quickly thanks to the shifting buildings. They'd already guessed light might help. The sky was totally overcast and the days felt unnaturally short, but they were hesitant to use their resources. Eventually, they cast daylight on an arrow and had the rogue climb a building to fire it. The arrow lit up the streets below, revealing a path forward and a glimpse of the city's true layout. And then things blew up. The rogue is mid-sentence, describing what he saw when the problem player cuts in. Great, sunlight was the answer. We go to the castle in the center of the city. What do we find? Me. Hold on, Rogue, you were saying... Problem player. If the next words out of your mouth aren't "you arrive at the castle," then I'm gone. Me. Are you serious? Rogue, you climb back down and a Discord disconnect sound. Gone. Literally 30 seconds later, the shadows in the street started to twist and rise like inky liquid, pulling together before pulling themselves upright into a humanoid figure. Yep, the combat this guy couldn't wait for, it happened the moment he rage quit. He started texting me immediately after. I replied once. I'll reach out in a few days to talk. I'm not spending more time on this right now. I was annoyed. I still am. I apologized to the group and we played on. The new player, in her first ever D&D combat, absolutely crushed the opening rounds. We are picking it up mid-fight next Friday. Now, isn't it a nice ending to today's little video? If you liked it, leave a like, and if you want more of those, you can subscribe definitely. I also wanna say that we are running D&D sessions with 4 complete strangers. Something I never done before, only read and heard about. So, probably in real life, horror story is coming up. A link to the first episode will be in the description. Till the next time.